Amy. Good morning. It is 8 o'clock and I call this special Dunwoody City Council meeting to order. Councilman Price is not here. Okay, Councilman Lambert has the invocation and the pledge. If rise, if you are able, please.
At this meeting, help us to make decisions which keep us faithful to our mission and reflect our values. Give us strength to hold to our purpose, wisdom to guide us, and a keen perception to lead us. And above all, keep us charitable as we deliberate. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just, you may have to read this just technically.
So the item on the agenda today is the resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Dunwoody, Georgia, to fix the ad valorem tax rate of the city of Dunwoody for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes.
Mr. Platt, is Richard here? I can't, there's a post in the way. It's a terrible design.
Didn't hide behind the post, sorry, yes. There we go, okay, all right. Good morning, Mayor and Council. So this is the first of 3 public hearings for the adoption of the millage rate this year. A very brief presentation and then happy to answer any questions you may have. We will start with a very, very high level overview of the millage rate, kind of a, if you want to call it, definitions. So millage rate is applied to the assessed value of taxable property. The millage rate is 1 mil. 1 mil is $1 per thousand of assessed value. For calculation purposes, the mil starts at 0.001. So that's why, for example, when we adopted, we always say we adopt a 3.040 rate. It always goes out to 3 decimals there. And the millage rate is set by the levying authority each year. And that's the purpose of these 3 meetings, public hearings. Cut right to the chase as to terms of where we are. We're not proposing a millage rate increase. It will remain 3.040. 85% of Dunwoody residential properties have applied for the homestead and get the homestead exemption. City also has an assessment freeze in place. So if home values rise, city taxes do not go up in that scenario. So based on the impact, the rollback calculation, the rollback, we're proposing an increase of 0.5%, which is 0.125 mils. So the impact, if we were, since we're proposing to adopt a 3.04 millage rate, the impact to the average homeowner is $3.75. Obviously, for the final bill that they get, for any homeowner gets, assuming it's a homesteaded property, that will show no tax increase. This is our comparison to our neighboring cities, and it's the aggregate tax rate. So it includes counties, schools, and the city rate. Again, Dunwoody, if you look on the chart, the farthest to the right there, Dunwoody is has the lowest aggregate tax rate within the county. To the right there is the Dunwoody bill for that a typical resident would see. This is based on 2025 rates. So the county total is 14.345. And then you've got the school at 22.78, no state, the city millage at 3.04. And so the total millage, and for a resident in the city of Dunwoody is 40.165 mils. And it's broken down a little bit on the next slide in terms of, again, this is a 2025 tax bill. Where does your money go? Where does that, when you pay your taxes, where does it go? The purple on that screen, 80% goes to school operations. And then you have a variety of smaller fees as to where that goes. And then in the top right, you'll notice approximately $350 or 5% of the typical bill goes to city operations. So again, the majority, 80% of the tax bill goes to schools. So as kind of a reminder for the general fund budget, almost 80%, about 79% of the general fund is taxes. And we'll break down that taxes in the next slide. So taxes encompasses a lot of different words there. It's not just this, or a lot of funding sources. It's not just property taxes within that $30 million. But there's other sources within there that are smaller in nature, license and permit 6%, things like that. So, but the majority of the general fund revenue comes from taxes. So keeping that $30 million in mind, this slide breaks down that $30 million into the various taxes that the city receives. If you look at kind of light blue on the right, the real property tax at $11.8 million, that's roughly 39%. We've said that it's about a third of the taxes. Property taxes account for about a third of the revenue for the general fund. Is what we've historically seen. And then you've got the other taxes that make up that $30 million. But again, the majority, there's personal property in there of $471,000. So roughly 40% of the taxes category is related to property tax revenue, the millage rate. And one more, so this was the notice of tax increase that was published in the ad or published in the crier. Talks about the rollback rate being 3.025. So we're advertising a 0.5%, 0.5% increase. Typical home with a fair market value of $650,000 in the city of Dunwoody. The proposed tax increase is about a $3.75 charge. Fair market value of a property with $2.6 million is about $15.75. And lastly, this is the 5-year digest history that goes along with the ad. That's required to be published as well. 21 to 25 are the actual signed, approved numbers from that the state adopts, and then 2026 is the proposed numbers for the millage this year. So, and I believe recommendation is to keep mills at 3.040, and I think that is it. Yes, that is it.
Thank you. All right, unless there's an objection, I will open the public hearing. Seeing no objection, the public hearing is opened. I will ask anyone who would like to speak in favor of staff's recommendation to maintain the millage rate at 3.04 to approach the microphone, and there'll be 10 minutes for the side in favor. Seeing none, I will ask anyone in opposition to approach the microphone, and you will have 3 minutes. There'll be 10 minutes, I'm sorry, for that side. Good morning, Mr. Hickey.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, Council. My name is Bob Hickey. I'm a citizen of Dunwoody and have been for 50+ years. I'm here today to express my thoughts on another proposed property tax increase on citizens, residents, renters, guests, and businesses in Dunwoody. The slide that was just shown says that I may have been barking up the wrong tree all these years. Property taxes are only about a third of the taxes that people in Dunwoody pay over the year. And even though a lot of them you call business taxes, we all pay them in the final analysis. So I've been barking up the wrong tree, but I'll maybe start barking up another tree at another day. I have 4 topics I like to talk about today. Number 1, the day and time of these meetings. The day and time of these meetings. Look around. Look around. My bodyguard and my second bodyguard and my 3 bodyguards are only ones here. Only other citizen here. Okay? Only one other citizen here. It's absolutely disgraceful to have a public hearing meeting scheduled on a Monday morning at 8 a.m. You don't want public participation. You don't want any participation. You don't want to do the public a service. You want to do the public a disservice by having the meetings at this time of day. Look, it's shameful. These meetings should be scheduled at a time and a date that is convenient to our fellow citizens. Get some participation. Number two, since the city was formed in December 2008, that's 18 years of these type property tax hearings, there have been 4 years when property values and therefore property taxes have declined. 4 years they have declined. For 13 of the other 14 years, property taxes have increased, but the millage rate stayed the same, was maintained. These increases, this maintenance of the millage rate is a backdoor, underhanded millage rate increase without public vote, without public participation. In 1 year, 2022, we all should remember, the city reacted to a false, we got a structural deficit problem, structural deficit syndrome. And the city council raised the millage rate from 2.74 to 3.04. So for at least 12 years, I have been at meetings like this, and I've gotten about the same reaction. The millage rate should be decreased to maintain constant property values for unchanged circumstances. No new construction, no new owners. So if the property has no changed circumstances, they should be paying the same property tax amount. Therefore, the millage rate should be decreased for those folks. All unchanged circumstantial property would pay the increased rate. This is a common sense method for the public to pay their fair share of taxes. The public, whether it's through businesses or direct to them on property taxes, the public should not have to pay more taxes for the same services. Number three, the proposed tax increase, the revenue increase is $690,000 and change, or 5.69% increase. This rate exceeds the annual CPI inflation of 4.2%, which just came out last week, or 2.9% core rate, which excludes food and energy. Why is Dunwoody so different? Why do we have to have more money than's coming out of regular stuff? Since our city became independent of DeKalb County in 2009, property taxes have increased from, now get this, $6,500,861, from $6,500,000 to the proposed $12,800,000. Okay, 97% increase in those 19 years, almost doubling. 18 years, almost doubling in 18 years. This increase far, far, far exceeds the national CPI inflation rate of 55% in that same time period. 55% inflation in the country. If you live in Dunwoody, it's 97%. Actually, the city has a spending problem, not a revenue problem. The city has an insatiable desire for more revenue. Property taxes only account for about a third of the revenue from citizens. Okay, the rest of it, as I said, I've been barking up the wrong tree. City expenditures for public safety have increased fairly, okay, as we wanted whenever we became a city. For public safety, it's gone from $4,500,000 in 2009 because I excluded 2008 because of the high startup expenses relative to getting the equipment for the police department. So it's increased from $4,500,000 to $17.5 million, a 286% increase. 286% increase. And our police still are understaffed. We need at least 30 more policemen on the ground, boots on the ground, walk in the neighborhoods, walk in the shopping centers. Okay, we need boots on the ground, not concrete on the ground for paths. City expenditures in the same time period, except public safety, have increased from 10,000,008. Now get this, 10,000,008 to 56 million. 56 million, okay, other than police, okay, from the same time period. 10,000,008 to 56 for non-police. For police, 4,000,005 to 17. We need less others and more police boots. Now, what's the real issue? Spending. Spending, spending, spending. And the best example is the bloated staff in this city hall. The city had 4 non-police employees in 2009, and I grant you, yes, they had some contract employees. So they had 4 non-police employees in 2009, and we have 53 on the staffing compensation guide that was put out last week. 53. Okay. Oh, me. And in that same chart, now get this. In that same chart you put out last week that approved for the city, there are 11 assistants to assistants or deputies. Okay. And we all know what a deputy is. It's another word for assistant. These 11 people earn approximately 1.2 million plus their 30 to 50% benefits. Okay. That is more than enough to pay for the proposed property tax increase. In that same chart, there were 36 employees who could earn more than the most recent city Dunwoody median household income of $96,000. We have more employees making more than the citizens. Something ain't right about that picture, I tell you. The solution to our problem is cut expenses, starting with payroll. As you have probably guessed by now, I'm against the proposed millage rate increase. Property tax increase. I say millage rate also. I believe the millage rate should be reduced to 2.86 mils to account for the aggregate effect of those houses that have had not changed in circumstances. I love our city. I've lived here for 50 plus years. I raised my kids here. I've raised my grandkids here. Okay. My grandkids probably will not have an opportunity to stay here because of policies that the city is imposing that drive up the cost of housing and living in Dunwoody. I'm sure you're going to say, well, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, Hickey. I might not. Okay. But I'd be glad to share my source of all this data with you if you're interested. I thank you for listening to me today. Thank you for your service to our great city, the greatest city in the world. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. How much time remains? 18 seconds. If anyone wants to speak for 18 seconds, feel free. We will. Seeing no comments, no further public comment. You want your 18 seconds back, Mr. Hickey? Seeing no further comments, I end the public hearing and open council discussion questions of staff. Go ahead, Joe.
Richard,
Go ahead. No, that's fine. Go ahead.
could you put your slide back up? Wanted to ask a couple things on one of the aggregate millage rate slide, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's been a long time since I've been in school. My math skills are kind of whatever, but when I look at not dividing numerator denominator, but you have a base and you have a multiplier, right? Just basic math, and then okay, I'm dividing by 1,000, whatever, to calculate. So when I hear about this 3.04, that's aggregate, and I know that I'm not paying. I don't just take my assessed value that was from 2009 and multiply it by 3.04 and divide it by 1,000, whatever it is, and that's not what I pay. I pay less than that. I don't multiply it by 3.04. So that's an aggregate calculation. I think it would be even more illuminating to show the actual, what is that multiplier really? And what is that? Do you know that off the top of your head? It's not 3.04. Do you know that number?
Well, most residents, uh, um, personal property have a 1 mil exemption, assuming they've applied for the homestead exemption. So that millage rate's actually 2.04 in that scenario. So
So if I multiply it by 2.04?
for a resident, yes, that
Right.
has a homestead exemption
Okay.
for roughly the 85%.
All
of
right. So
homes in the
I
city.
think what I'd like to relay to this people is just because it's really tough to explain to a lot of people out there in the street. You're trying to sell it, just like, well, take your house value, multiply by 2.04, you're saying, and then divide it by 1,000.
And then, yeah,
It's
there's.
only on
So we got
that
yeah.
value.
There's a lot. Don't add the onion.
yeah.
Yeah. As a person who's had to deal with this math for decades, it is problematic for everybody, myself included. Basically, the best way to sum it up is take your house value, what you think it's worth. First off, knock off 60%. Its value, it's assessed at 40%.
Yeah.
In the city of Dunwoody, you have three basic exemptions that hit almost every homesteaded property. The first is just take an additional 10,000 off the top, isn't taxed. Then take 1 mil's value, so basically a third. So you've already taken 60% off. Then you take 33% of what's left off. And then on top of that, and this is the one where it's kind of a little bit awkward to show the third exemption, it's the frozen value. There's a great deal of hot houses in the city, probably I'm going to guess around 40 or 45. It's a little bit difficult to actually pin the number down, who are still being taxed at the exact same rate they were in 2008. And that's an additional exemption on top of it. So when you get into the math, take your house value, take off 60% right off the top. Then after that, take 30% of what's remaining, then take off another 10,000, and then whatever your freeze is could take off even more.
Yeah. Right. So it's really, yeah, much less than multiplying that simple math like that and the freeze. And so let me ask you another question on this. I just had a comment. I heard a comment about one of these, just kind of a red herring argument where you say we need to pay for police versus concrete on the ground for paths. Can you tell me about the two different funding sources that we use for those, and if there's any restrictions between police or infrastructure, such as public works projects? Could you
Here's
discuss
kind of
that?
the best way to do it, and this is one of those that's become a popular term around here, the different buckets of money that we have. Your general fund taxes, which we're talking here, the property taxes, fund basic operations. They're basically the first thing out of the gate is paying for all the police officers we have. Now, when people talk about the paths construction here, almost none of that is paid for with general fund tax dollars. It's paid for with a voter approved SPLOST. We're on SPLOST 2, so twice this county and all the cities within it have passed a 1 penny sales tax that can only be used for construction and maintenance of capital assets. So almost all of our transportation, the construction of it, now some regular filling potholes and the like are general fund taxes, but your things such as sidewalks, such as road intersection improvements are paid for out of sales tax dollars that were overwhelmingly voter approved across the county and across all jurisdictions.
Thanks. So we can't move those interchange. You can't use the money that we're paying for the
Correct.
SPOS for payroll.
Yeah, the
At all.
Department of Revenue would instantly cite
Right.
us.
Sure. Thanks. Right. Thank you.
Anybody else? John, go ahead.
Couple minor things. Taking a look at the slide that's up there now, the unincorporated bonds. I'm guessing that's DeKalb Parks. When is one of those expired, or what are they, Jim? Do you remember?
They are the ones, and this is put my former hat on. They will stay on a few more years, but without it in front of me, I can't guess the year. I have it I have it upstairs. I'll get it for tonight.
The city of Dunwoody received after lawsuit after lawsuit, a chunk of money to fund Brook Run Park for those bonds. So did get some benefit from those bonds. I'm just wondering when they're done.
Yeah.
Also, I think
Go ahead.
Waterford Park, DeKalb had some money in there too.
Okay.
So that's just so people know.
I can get it.
Yeah, again, it's a minor amount, but it jumped out at me as when do those expire? I'm just trying to figure that out. As far as the homestead is funny because again, you got your homestead from 2009 that have a great deal, and then you have new residents that are homestead but at a higher rate, and then you have those that do not have homestead, which are paying, let's say, the full boat. What type of audits do we do to ensure homesteads are correct? What type of background do we do to verify those types of things? In other words, I'm thinking there may be, maybe I'm wrong, there may be a reason to cheat.
You are hitting on something that the counties, between the Board of Tax Assessors and specifically the Tax Commissioner's Office, they usually go through every couple of years trying to clean the rolls, because it's also not just beneficial for the cities, it's also beneficial for the county itself.
Right.
Yes, there are always stories of people that somehow skirt the system and do it. It is not a widespread instance every time you go through an audit. You do find them, but it's not like a widespread whole areas are missed.
And I understand if a house is not occupied by the original owner, then it's, should not have homestead. I'm always a little fuzzy on rules like renting out half your house. Is that homestead or non-homestead? I don't know the rules on it. I just wondered if we do a good job checking things like that.
Again, we, the city, don't. The job duty falls upon the tax commissioner, but they have an incentive also to make sure the rolls are clean. I do not know specifically on the half rental, but there's a couple times a year we get wind of something and it's a call to the tax commissioner's office and then they check in on it.
Again, it's probably not the biggest problem, but it's just something that jumps out at me. And as far as the tax rate, I mean, yes, the homesteaded values that they pay less because of all the rules that are in place, but we still, though the millage rate affects businesses, affects properties other than residential that have that exemption. So those taxes are still paid by a big chunk of those entities that we oversee. So again, it's not just the homeowners, but it's the renters, it's the businesses. So they're all important. So thank you.
Okay. I want to review a couple things. Could you go to the slide that showed the ad, I guess? The chart. Not that. Was there one more?
These are
This one.
okay.
So I think one of the things that I recently realized is that at this time last year, when we ran this ad, this question is probably for Jay because we talked about it. Okay. I believe that on the 2025 net tax increase, it actually showed $1.2 million. Is that correct?
It showed, and what you're hitting at is
Or
the
6.
ads that are published are based off preliminary data. So
Which
this
is today too.
yeah, and this is showing 2026 at that 5.69. The advertised.
No, I'm talking about what happened in
Let me
25. Okay,
come back
sorry.
and through the
Okay.
story.
Okay.
In 2025, we actually had to advertise a 9% increase. Straight out of the gate, I was arguing with the tax commissioner and the property appraiser's offices over that number. And unfortunately, we are stuck with advertising that. We do know that throughout the next few months, there will be appeals. There will be wins on appeals. And that number will decrease. And it decreased from about 9%, that 2.4 or 1 point something million, down to 2.4. It drastically decreased between what we had to advertise and what was adopted.
Right.
I've been talking with both offices this entire time about that. It had to do with exemptions and appeals not being included at the rate they should have been. They are aware of it. They are saying to me that right now they are confident with the numbers, but we do need to point out that that number decreased dramatically last year.
So if you had had the same conversation this time last year, would they have said they were confident with the number?
That I cannot speak to because I did not have that conversation with them last year.
I bet they would have.
They are aware of my
Right.
concern is the best way
Right.
to put it.
So one of the things that makes this process very hard, as it's defined by the state law, is that we're advertising something that could end up being no growth. Because last year, the mistake wasn't, the change isn't just credited. Is it discredited? Credited to appeals. It's credited to a mistake the assessor's office mistake. They may not agree with that word, but timing of exemptions and abatements, et cetera, correct?
Correct. And you can even add to that a city somewhat directly to the south of us is increasing their tax rate this year. And their reason behind that is they are stating publicly they do not trust the loss on appeals that is going to come up through the year.
Oh, not that they spent all their reserves.
I'm not going to say that because that's not the words they're saying.
Okay. So with that, that's a good transition. which is that with their decision to essentially raise their millage rate nearly a mill, is that correct? I saw it on there, about a mill. Brookhaven, about a mill, and
Chambly. And Chambly.
and Chambly. And Chambly doesn't have any charter restrictions. They're an old city, but they're up to 7 point something mills, I think.
So,
I continue to say that we're offering a really good deal for our residents. And when people say, I understand the burden this puts, and I have to tell you that if I had all the power in the world, I would push DeKalb really hard to switch from a host to a lost, which is a sales tax credit that in DeKalb, for whatever reason, when I asked former Senator Millar a few years ago, he just said he didn't know why they chose to go with the homestead exemption sales tax as opposed to the local option sales tax, which is shared by all taxpayers. That would be a change. I mean, I've actually talked about it with the mayors. It's a heavy, heavy lift to change. And so I appreciate that, but I want to point out that, and also I believe that this year, don't hold me to it because I don't have 100% control, that the county actually owes municipal residents of city a host credit that they should appear on their bill from last, it's a credit from last year, but it should appear on their bill this year.
you are correct in using the term "do not hold your breath."
Right. No, I did not say that. I said, do not hold me to it, and we're going to talk about it if they don't do it. I've asked, I've been assured that it's been budgeted for, but the way the host works is that there is a cap that when the county takes in a certain amount of money to meet a certain amount of expenses, the excess is to be divided amongst the cities to be used for local municipal property tax relief.
You're correct.
And we should have had it last year.
Last year,
Last year, they said it's a timing thing, so they said it would appear this year.
we will see when they approve.
We will
it.
see. This year, the legislature, a little bit after midnight on Sine Die, passed a bill that limited assessed values of homestead only, and this is the legislature, property to 3%. That helps you starting in not this cycle, but next cycle with school taxes in terms of assessed value increases. I do not believe that it accomplished the goals of the legislators who were pushing hardest for property tax reform. And so I expect we'll see more changes in this next session. I don't think we're through by any stretch of imagination, but as a reminder, in Dunwoody, whether you bought your house in 2009 or had it before 2009, or you've bought it since, once you freeze your value, it's frozen, and for city and county taxes, and the 3% doesn't matter except for school taxes, which is the overwhelming majority of your bill, 80% or more, depending on your situation on average. All right, we will see this again tonight unless there's any other questions. I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Stacy.
Second.
Y'all are sleepy. Second by Tom. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. See you tonight.